My husband and I have been dating since I was 19 and he was 22. We've been married for 6 years now. We have 2 kids, and I'm 6 months pregnant with our third. 2 years ago I found out my dad has stage 3 colon cancer. My dad is my only parent, as my mom passed away when I was 12. He's my favorite person in life. Without him doesn't seem as colorful. His laugh is contagious, and he gives these big bear hugs that make all your broken pieces feel perfectly in place again. Whenever I've had a hard day, he doesn't poke or prod, he just lets me vent and listens. About 5 months ago, we discovered that the treatments aren't working for him, and in the doctor's exact words he said, "Months, not years." Since then, he's gotten progressively worse, and is now losing his memory. He looked at the dog he got for me on my 21st birthday and said, "Wow, that's a nice dog, where'd you get it?" My husband has been my absolute rock. He has been there for me, holding my hand and helping me through this. He's been so loving and attentive to both my kids and me. Don't get me wrong, I am a mother first, always. I don't allow myself to wallow. My kids are still loved, cared for, played with, and I haven't let my responsibilities around the house slack. So once my dad got his updated prognosis, my husband encouraged me to quit my job. About a month later we discovered we were pregnant again, and I still hadn't let go of my job. After finding out I was pregnant again, he reassured me that it was still okay to quit my job and that it would actually save us a small fortune on daycare costs anyway. So I did. I quit my job. My best friend and I have been friends since diapers. Her family is like my family and vice versa. My mom and her mom grew up together. We've always been solid, and right after my dad's appointment, when we found out he had so little time left, I drove straight to her house, and she held me while I cried for hours. If there are soulmates in friend form, she is mine. Thick as thieves is what my mom used to say. This morning, as I was up with my 3-year-old, my husband's work alarm was going off. He has a few set, so I turned that one off and gently woke him up. He said he was up late working, so he took the morning off, then rolled over and went back to sleep. As I went to turn off the rest of his alarms, I saw a text from my friend on his lock screen that said, "I'm assuming since there hasn't been an angry pregnant lady on my doorstep, you haven't told her about us yet." Time froze in that moment. I took his phone, walked away, and just read their conversations. 4 months this man has been sleeping with my best friend. 4 months these people have been lying to my face. And I know what you're going to say, you should have seen the warning signs, but I've been clutching this phone in my hand for 2 hours, and nothing. He has been so loving and attentive to me, but he always has been. So kind and gentle. There have been no late-night work sessions except for once in a blue moon. There have been no lingering touches between them or even glances. They act exactly as they have since the day I first introduced them. How sick is it that she calls him her brother, but she's been sleeping with him? I know so many people get a moment of clarity in situations like this, but I have none. Aside from being sad about my dad, I haven't changed. I'm still a loving wife and mother. I still dote on him and my children. I talk to him about how he's doing and how his day was every single day. I haven't allowed the ground to swallow me whole. I know what I have to do now, but I just don't want to. I'm about to lose my family and my support system in one blow. I'll confront him tomorrow. Today I just need this last 24 hours of peace. As for my best friend, I won't give her the satisfaction of a response. I don't care why she did it, and it's done. I was always the friend who cleaned up her messes. After today, I will cut her out of my life, like she never mattered at all. This has to be the hardest storm I'll ever weather, but damn it, I know I'll sail through it. If not for me, for my children. Update 1 day later. A small update on everything going on now that my kids are in bed for the night. I spent the morning gathering everything I could and making a checklist. I sat in my office for most of the morning, telling my husband I was preparing things for my dad. Not a total lie, I did have to get him sorted with hospice today. So my boss would be happy to have me back, but my lawyer said to pump the brakes on that idea for the time being. However, my old boss did tell me that whenever I'm ready, the door is open, and to just give her a call. He does not have access to my inheritance from my father or my mother. My lawyer assured me of that. I didn't mention her before, but my mother-in-law is an absolute angel. I love and adore her so much, and she's always been a shoulder to lean on. After he left for work in the afternoon, I asked my now ex-best friend's mom and my mother-in-law to meet me at my dad's house. So my kids were outside playing with my ex-best friend's older brother. I handed them the screenshots, sparing them the unsavory pictures and the smash tape, though I did tell them it existed. To say they were furious is an understatement, and they are completely on my side. Angie, my ex-best friend's mom, is ready to cut contact with her daughter completely. She kept repeating how sorry she was. We hugged and cried together. My mother-in-law told me she couldn't believe she raised such a spineless, terrible human. She said that no matter what happens, I will always have her, and as far as she's concerned, she doesn't have a son, only a daughter. After an in-person meeting with my lawyer, we went over finances, logistics, and everything you could think of. She has all the proof, and she's out for blood. Now that this post is on TikTok, I don't want him to find out through an app because one look at the story, and he'd know it was about him. With permission from my lawyer, my ex-best friend, her mom and dad, my soon-to-be ex-husband, and his parents will be having a get-together tomorrow. By the time they're sitting down and showing them everything, and letting them know that I know my dad, my kids, and my ex-best friend's brother, he's coming to help me juggle the kids and my dad, as being big and pregnant doesn't help with mobility. We'll be at my dad's cabin a few hours away, enjoying time and space. I know a lot of people were hoping for me to get revenge, or engage in some kind of psychological warfare, but honestly after my kids went to bed, I took a shower and just broke down. I don't have the strength or energy to dish anything out, I just want out. Pretending like everything was okay today was too exhausting, and I just don't want to do it anymore. Once he finds out tomorrow, I'll update with the aftermath, as I'm sure it will be huge. For now, thank you all so much for your kindness, warmth and support. Truly, your words have helped give me the strength to keep my head above water. I appreciate every single one of you for everything. Second update 1 day later. For the sake of typing, I'm going to give everyone fake names for context. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are Ruth and Joe. My ex-best friend's parents are Angie and Bob. My ex-best friend is Jess. My soon-to-be ex-husband is Tyler. Jess's brother is Jake, and I'll just refer to my dad as Dad. I have a few things I want to get through, so I'll summarize as best as I can. To start, because it feels important to me, yesterday I scheduled a same-day appointment with my optician, and got tested for just about every STD/STI. Most of the results have come back, and they were all negative. There are a few tests that take up to 2 weeks for results, so I'll be waiting on those. When I met with my lawyer, I brought everything I had financially, including the wills from both my dad and mom. I also managed to get my hands on his financial documents, which he keeps in a lockbox in his office. Additionally, I brought over everything we had set up financially for our children. While I'm not entirely sure if it's everything, I'm confident I got most of it. So my lawyer was pleased with how much I was able to gather. Ruth even handed over her and Bob's will to ensure I was taken care of in the divorce. My lawyer understands that I want a divorce immediately, but she wants to make sure she's thorough and not missing any key information. Hopefully, I'll have actual divorce papers to give him in about 30 days. I'm not rushing her though, I'm letting the professional do her job. So now for the sit-down, I asked Angie and Ruth to describe everything in detail about what happened. Angie made them sit through a slideshow she put together with all the texts. I know a lot of you were concerned that someone might spill the truth sooner, but they were so secretive that they didn't even tell their significant others what was happening. So once the slideshow ended, Tyler tried lunging at Jess, and Joe actually had to force him to sit down. Tyler was shouting profanities at Jess, telling her she would regret this. Jess started crying and begging her parents for forgiveness. So Bob looked his daughter in the eye and told her he would never forgive her for this. Flood or not, she is no daughter of his. He said he didn't raise his daughter to be this person. Jess has always been a daddy's girl, so I think that cut her pretty deep. Jess is currently in the middle of a divorce herself, and her parents were financially supporting her with her lawyer. They told her she is now completely cut off, both financially and physically. Tyler's dad was furious. According to Ruth, he looked like he was barely holding back from physically confronting him. After the sit-down, Tyler went straight home. I know this because we have a Ring doorbell camera, along with a few cameras inside the house to keep an eye on the kids when we're not right next to them. When Tyler got home and saw that most of my and the kids' stuff was gone, he lost it. He started yelling and throwing things, and now the house is trashed with a few holes in the walls for decoration. When he didn't find us at home, he went into my dad's house. While I had spent most of the day packing and moving things into my dad's house while Tyler was at work, we were already at the cabin. Tyler tried to break down my dad's door with a baseball bat, but thankfully he failed. My dad's neighbor called the cops on him, and he was arrested. His parents are refusing to bail him out. I had an appointment with my therapist today. I've been seeing her for a year now, ever since I started struggling with my dad's illness. It felt good to just cry and let everything out about how I was feeling. The session was really helpful, and she gave me some tools to help work through my emotions with everything going on. I left feeling grounded and empowered. I'm also planning to set up therapy for my children when we get back from the cabin, to figure out the best way to tell them. I know some people have said I shouldn't tell them, but I will, just in an age-appropriate way. I don't want there to be secrets or lies between us. I've always tried to be as open and honest with them as possible, again in a way that's appropriate for their age. Just because they're small humans doesn't mean they don't deserve the truth. I've received a handful of comments telling me I should stay, because every man cheats and that I should work things out since most of our marriage was good. I refuse to believe that all men cheat. My parents were married for 20 years, and after my mom passed, my dad never moved on. I watched my dad love my mom for 12 of those years and cherish her memory. I will not accept anything less than that kind of love. He never cheated, nor did she. While I'm not sure when I'll be ready to move on, falling in love is the absolute last thing on my mind right now. I refuse to let Tyler win by destroying my belief in love completely. I will move on from this. Jess started blowing up my phone, demanding that I fix the situation and immediately blaming me. My lawyer advised me not to block the text just in case they reveal any additional information I might be missing. Jess was playing the victim card hard, but here's the thing, I never influenced Angie and Bob to cut contact with their daughter. They made that decision on their own. Jess even started blaming me for stealing the love of her life, which makes no sense since I introduced her to Tyler when he and I started dating. She also claimed that Tyler is only with me for the kids. Honestly, I know she was just trying to hurt me at that point, but I didn't give her the satisfaction of responding. Between her and Tyler, I have about 200 missed calls. Tyler has been all over the place, going from begging and pleading for my forgiveness to threatening me. Since I don't have divorce papers to hand him yet, he's stuck in this unknown gray area. I also asked Angie and Ruth not to mention anything about the divorce to him yet. It's a bit petty, but keeping him in that gray area is my small form of revenge. At one point he threatened to call the cops on me for kidnapping, then admitted Jess wasn't the only one. My lawyer is going to love that. He shifted from calling me a stuck-up BTHE and threatening me, to begging for forgiveness again. Honestly, it was whiplash just reading those texts. I'd be lying if I said they didn't hurt and terrify me all at once, but I refuse to let them break me. As for both of them together, I don't think Tyler is going to stay with Jess. I think he blames her for blowing up our marriage, honestly. But who knows, they deserve each other. Initially, I was okay with a 5-0 custody split with Tyler, but after seeing his reaction, I no longer feel comfortable with that. So I'll likely be going for full custody. Jake has about 30 days of leave saved up, and he's going to use it to help the kids and me get settled at my dad's house. He'll also be around just in case Tyler shows up acting crazy again. He's been such a huge help lately, and I'm forever grateful. Last night, after the kids went to bed, he hooked up his Xbox, and we played Diablo 4 together to take my mind off things. It was fun. In the middle of it all though, he did sort of confess that he's always had feelings for me. So that he was clear not to expect anything from me and told me not to say or do anything in response. He understands that a relationship isn't on my mind, and won't be for a long time, but he just wanted to get it off his chest, saying he's felt this way since we were teenagers. Thank you again, seriously, your comments, support, messages, everything have been a giant breath of fresh air. Just knowing I have an entire online community willing to stand by me has kept me going these past few days. When I felt like giving up on leaving him because it's so hard, your comments popped into my head, giving me strength and so many great points and helpful advice. I know I deserve more, and I can't accept his actions. Third update 1 week. Hi everyone, I know a lot of you are still asking for an update. Not much has happened, but here's what has. Tyler discovered the post and asked if I was seeking a divorce. I told him I was. He apologized for losing his cool and asked if there was any hope for reconciliation, to which I said no. We did have a conversation about the kids and he agreed to supervised visits, which is a relief. I had another meeting with my lawyer, though nothing major happened. As for Jake, nothing has changed. He hasn't taken back his confession, but as I mentioned before, it's on the back burner for a long while. My kids' health and well-being remain my top priority. Unfortunately, my dad's health is on a steady decline. He's now in the hospital with no immediate release date. Please send thoughts and well wishes his way. My kids are adjusting well. We've scheduled a therapy appointment for them next week to help with transition. My oldest has more questions than the others, but I'm waiting until the therapy session to have any big conversations to ensure I handle them in the best way possible. On a brighter note, my oldest made tryouts for the traveling soccer league, and the baby is doing great, too. Things have calmed down a lot. I feel like I have a better grip on everything now. I've been focusing on my dad and the kids to stay busy. Thank you all for your love, support, and for checking in. Fourth update 1.5 months later. Hey everyone, I'm still getting daily messages and comments for an update, so here's what might be my final one. So my dad passed away about a week after my last update. Even though I knew it was coming, it still feels like a gut punch. Thank you to everyone who kept him in your thoughts, it meant a lot. My marriage has officially ended. So once Tyler realized how serious I was about leaving him, he became compliant and was willing to give me everything I asked for in the divorce. So my lawyer opted for a dissolution instead of a divorce. The process was a lot quicker and went smoothly. For now I have full custody while he works through his anger management and therapy. I'm not sure if I'll ever trust him fully with the kids again, but I'm in therapy too, as are my kids. I'm not making any decisions about that just yet. He currently gets supervised visits at a facility where there's plenty of staff and security, and someone is always present. That happens once a week, and he also gets video calls with the kids twice a week. Thank you all for your love and support throughout everything. The kids are adjusting pretty well. There are days when I can tell the changes affect them more, but they've gone through some big losses, so that's to be expected. I decided to give the baby my dad's first name, it just felt right. Thankfully, the baby is doing really well and thriving, despite all the stress I've been under. As for me, I'm managing as best as I can. I miss my dad like crazy, and I'm still figuring out how to exist in a world without him. The grief is still very heavy. I'm also mourning my marriage. While I don't regret leaving Tyler, it still hurts deeply. However, I'm picking up the pieces and building my life without him. So my mother-in-law, well, ex-mother-in-law now, I guess, and Angie have been incredible. They've really allowed me to lean on them during these tough times, whether it's taking the kids for a bit or cooking dinner when I don't have the energy. I feel truly lucky to have them in my corner. And finally, to what many of you have been waiting to hear about, Jake. He's back in California now. He tried to extend his leave, but the military said no. So it was truly wonderful having him here, especially in those first few days after my dad's passing. He picked up so much slack for me, and I'll never be able to fully repay him for that. He's incredibly patient and kind. That being said, nothing has happened between us romantically. He did hold me while I broke down after the kids went to bed several times, but that's the extent of it. No kissing or anything beyond that. He does call and text me multiple times a day, but right now, I just don't have any room in my life for romance. I'm carrying so much grief, and the weight of being a single mom has been heavy. Jake hasn't pushed me on anything though. He reminded me that he meant every word he said, and that he's willing to just be my friend until I decide I want more, if I ever decide I want more with him. I wish I could be the girl who jumps in with both feet, but the betrayal from my ex is still fresh, and I'm worried that I'd burn something out before it even started. So I asked for friendship and time to process everything else in my life before even considering a new relationship. He happily agreed. Oh, and as many of you guessed, Tyler and Jess are not a couple. He left her high and dry. While I don't wish misery on anyone, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a small sense of satisfaction seeing her life go up in smoke. She's been blacklisted from her family, and for those who think that's weird, it's really not when you understand the bond I have with her family. Angie is like a surrogate mom to me. She gave me the safe intimacy talk, the period talk, and listened to me cry over boys who broke my heart. She held my hand when I delivered my kids and has always called me her daughter. She practically knew my mom her whole life and was there when my mom delivered me. If anything had ever happened to my parents, Angie is who I would have gone to live with. It was even in my parents' will. Thank you for your kindness and understanding. Please just be gentle with me in the comments. I put off posting this for a few days, because of how hostile some people were, and being called a liar doesn't sound too appealing right now. So this is it for now. I probably won't post anything else for a while as I'm still trying to find my footing and settle into a new routine before bringing a brand new baby into the world. So might come back to this, but I might not. I do promise though, that if anything happens with Jake and me, I'll update. I know a lot of you became invested. 5th update 1 month later, just wanted to come back with a small update, the baby is here. He was born slightly premature, but no NICU stay was needed. He was 5 pounds 9 ounces and 19 inches, and he's absolutely beautiful. Angie was in the room with me when I had him, while my mother-in-law stayed with the other kids. So my older two are obsessed with their baby brother, and it makes my heart so happy. So my mother-in-law and Angie are taking turns spending nights and days with me for the first 6 weeks until we get acclimated. I told them they didn't have to, but they insisted. Honestly, I'm grateful for it. I can feel the waves of postpartum depression trying to drag me under, and my mental health hasn't been great. Knowing that this baby will never get to know or feel my dad's love has really been hard, especially since this is the only grandbaby he didn't get to meet. So I miss him like crazy and wish he were still here. Jake was planning on staying in the military for another 2 years to retire, but they offered him early retirement, not related to anything going on with me or this situation. There was a separate issue at work, but he didn't do anything wrong. So within the next 6 months, he'll be moving back home. He's going to try house hunting before he comes home, but since he can't take any leave to view places while working on his exit, there's a chance he'll temporarily stay with me until he finds a place. No, he isn't moving in permanently, lol. He might even just get an apartment for a year before buying a house. There's also some drama with Tyler already because he's angry that I wouldn't let him in the room when I had the baby. If you want more updates on that front, I'll share when I'm not feeling too overwhelmed. Love you all, and thank you for being there when I need to vent and get things off my chest. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and that everything goes your way. Until next time, friends. 6th update 2.5 months later. Hey everyone, it's been forever since I last updated you all. I miss chatting, but life has been keeping me very busy. So to answer some questions first, do Tyler's parents still talk to him? No, my mother-in-law cut him off almost instantly and went no contact. My father-in-law is very low contact and only speaks to him when he takes the kids to their supervised visits. Did Tyler cheat on you with more than just Jess? To my knowledge, there was only one other girl. If there are more, I'm not aware of them, and honestly I think I'd prefer not to know. Aren't you concerned about Jake and Jess being in contact with one another still? They are siblings after all. Jake and Jess never had a good relationship, they were very low contact even before any of this came out. They didn't get along as kids, and that dynamic never changed as they got older. Looking back, how she treated him was a major red flag. As adults, they only ever spoke at family functions, and even then, it was brief and surface level. What are you telling your children? You should let them process how they need to. The only one old enough to semi-understand what's happening is my oldest. I sat both of them down and simply said, Mommy and Daddy aren't together anymore. Daddy did some things that I wasn't okay with. That means Daddy won't live with us anymore, but you can still see him, spend time with him, and love him with all of your heart. It might be a little confusing and that's okay, but it's important to know that we both love you so much, and that will never change. I then asked if they had any questions or wanted to talk about it. My oldest had a few, which I answered honestly, but in an age-appropriate and gentle way. They're still in therapy, and I let them come to me if want to talk about it. I don't push it on them. My goal has never been to weaponize the kids against him, and it's something I'll never do. He's their dad, and I refuse to traumatize them any more than they've already been. Now, on to the update. If you've read my previous comments, you know that baby boy is here. He's honestly been the calmest newborn I've ever had. He hardly cries and is always content and happy. He's been reaching all his milestone markers, even hitting the ones that aren't on the preemie scale. It's such a relief and a blessing. The older two absolutely adore him, and they're loving the extra attention from their grandparents. Yes, Angie and her husband are called Grandma and Grandpa too. When I went into labor, I told Tyler I was in labor but didn't want him at the hospital. It is his child, so I was being courteous. He blew up on me for taking away his right to see his child being brought into the world. I just turned off my phone to relax and distress. He actually showed up at the hospital but had to be escorted off the property by security, not because he was violent, but because he wouldn't leave after I informed the nurses I delivered at the hospital I work at, I'm an RN, that I didn't want him around. Since that incident, Tyler hasn't shown up for a single visit to see the kids. So initially I sent him pictures of the baby and updates, but he never responded and eventually blocked my number. After about a month, I asked my father-in-law to reach out to him since no one had heard from him. So my father-in-law actually went to Tyler's house to do a wellness check because I was concerned something might be wrong. So even though I don't love him anymore, there's still a part of me that will always care for him as the father of my children. It turns out he has a new girlfriend and just isn't interested in being a dad anymore. He even went as far as denying paternity, despite being the only person I've ever been with physically. Surprisingly, the kids seem okay with him not being around much. No, I didn't feel it was necessary to share the harsh things he said with them. They don't need that burden. Jake has been absolutely amazing. He had my favorite food delivered to the hospital after the birth, FaceTimes and texts me regularly, and chats with the kids. He hasn't been pushy at all, and has let me set the pace completely, never crossing any boundaries. He even surprised me with a postnatal massage, arranging everything, including childcare. It was the most relaxed I've felt in months. He occasionally sends little gifts and food to the house, especially on my harder days. Jake has truly been a breath of fresh air. He comes home in just over 3 months, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited. As for me, I've been regularly attending therapy, which has really helped me cope and become a better person and mother. I'm still devastated by my dad's passing, and grief has a way of sneaking up and choking me when I least expect it. Sometimes I just sit in his office, where it smells the most like him, and cry. I was so blessed to have such a loving and amazing dad. Angie and my mother-in-law have truly been angels on earth, and I cannot express how lucky I am to have such an amazing support system. Even my father-in-law and Angie's husband have been incredibly supportive and kind. I would be lost without their unconditional love and support. As crazy as it sounds, I'm honestly unbothered by the divorce and Tyler not being around anymore. I think I'm more relieved than anything. My heart aches for my children, but in some ways I didn't realize how long I'd been holding my breath and walking on eggshells in that marriage until I was finally in a space where I didn't have to anymore. My therapist and I have really dug deep, and taking off the rose-colored glasses has been eye-opening. In a weird yet awful way, I'm almost thankful I caught him cheating. I think that's why I was so calm and methodical during the process of leaving him. It was the final push I needed to break free. I go back to work next week, and I think I'm ready to find my new normal and get back into a routine. While my heart aches knowing my dad isn't here to see it, I feel ready to unlock this next chapter of my life. Cheers to the chapter of healing, self-love, new beginnings, and finding peace within the chaos. Commenter: any news from Jess throughout all of this? Ops response: no one has been in contact with Jess for a few months now. She's tried to reach out to me to reconcile, avoid accountability, and place all the blame on Tyler. I haven't responded to a single message. She's been using texting apps to contact me since I have her number blocked. I did hear through the grapevine that her divorce proceedings didn't go her way, as her ex-husband had proof of multiple affairs. He isn't really a good person either, so I'm not exactly applauding the ex-husband for this, but the karma is definitely bittersweet. She's been dragging out her divorce for a while and was already separated when her affair with Tyler began. For the record, I'm not the friend you can tell about cheating, because I will snitch, and she knew that. Looking back, I'm not surprised by any of it now. 7th update 3.5 months later. Hey friends, I come bearing some much anticipated news, but I'll breeze through a few things people wanted to know before diving in. A lot of people have been asking if Tyler is still not seeing the kids, and the answer is no, he isn't. He's completely cut off contact. His dad was acting as the middleman to avoid direct communication between Tyler and me, but even that has stopped. Tyler told his dad that his girlfriend made him choose between her and the kids because I wouldn't communicate through her. Mind you, I don't even know who she is, I don't even know her first name. I told him I'd be fine using a third party to communicate about the kids, but it couldn't be someone who's a complete stranger to me and the kids. I suggested using his aunt, who has remained neutral during the divorce and everything else, but that wasn't good enough for him or his girlfriend. So he decided to cut all contact. He didn't see the kids for Christmas or New Year's, and shortly after the New Year he went full no contact. I'm managing the kids and working full-time as best as I can, and I'm so grateful for all the help I have. My mother-in-law and Angie take turns watching the kids while I work, as they're both retired. More often than not, I come home to a clean house, happy kids, and dinner on the stove. They truly are the biggest blessings. I want to give a huge shout out to the single parents who do this completely on their own, with no help from anyone or the other parent. I can't even begin to imagine how much strength it takes to do it alone. And now, on to Jake. We're dating currently. I say that with air quotes, because while we've been going on dates and spending time together, we're not officially boyfriend and girlfriend, if that makes sense. He did kiss me for the first time at midnight on New Year's. It was cheesy, yes, but I absolutely loved it. I'm not ready to offer anything more right now, and he's been completely understanding of that. We have the occasional date night out, but most of our dates involve the kids, like movie nights, going to the park, or just spending time at home playing with them. The kids adore him, and he adores them right back. I have so many pictures of him holding the baby, trying to soothe him to sleep, only to end up accidentally napping with him. It's so adorable. Jake is allowing me to completely set the pace, and he's patient with me at all times. I honestly feel so lucky. I even told him that if he wanted to date other people he could, but he looked at me like I had slapped him and was adamant that I'm the only woman he wants to pursue. Sometimes I feel guilty that he's helping heal a heart he didn't break, but he never hesitates to remind me that he's all in, and will wait forever if he has to. It's incredibly reassuring, and I couldn't ask for more. I waited so long to share this because I wanted Jake's stamp of approval before continuing to share what's quickly evolving into our love story. I let him read my posts and all of your comments. He may have gotten a bit of a big head with how much everyone is Team Jake. He pokes fun at me for it, and honestly I love it. This man is so funny without ever being mean. He even said, "It's a breath of relief to know your internet family approves of me." He did create a Reddit account to check out my posts, with my approval of course. He'll likely be a silent follower, but don't be surprised if he pops up in the comments every now and then, LOL. I hope everyone has an amazing day, and we'll talk soon. Commenter, is Tyler paying child support? How can he just ghost when he has 2 kids? How are the kids holding up? My heart breaks for them. Ops response, he wasn't initially, but I spoke with a family lawyer right after the holidays, and they explained that one of the best ways to get full custody and terminate parental rights is by putting him on child support. If he doesn't pay it, doesn't ask about the kids, or isn't contacted regarding them for a full year, it would be considered abandonment. After that, I could go to court to pursue those charges, and he wouldn't be able to just pop up one day and decide he wants to take me to court for full custody when he feels ready to play Father of the Year. After 90 days we can start the paperwork for abandonment and other processes. The lawyer explained it better than I can, but it was something along those lines. I highly doubt he'll pay it though. He found out about my inheritance from my mom and dad during the dissolution, and he seemed pretty angry that I had all this money, and he wasn't getting any of it. If he does pay child support, it'll go straight into a savings account for the kids, and they'll have access to it when they become adults. As for the kids, they seem fine, they're still in therapy, and I'll continue taking them until they feel like they no longer need it, and if the therapist agrees, we'll stop. They don't really ask about their dad much at all. On Christmas they asked if they'd be seeing him, but when I gently told them he wasn't coming, they seemed unaffected. They haven't asked about him since. I've started feeling like maybe he wasn't as good to them when I wasn't around, because they've just accepted it and seem genuinely okay with him being gone. 8th update 3 months later. Hey guys, can you believe that in less than 2 weeks it'll be a year since I made my first post on Reddit the morning I discovered my ex-husband's affair. I just want to say thank you to everyone who has supported me on this journey. You've all been such a blessing. Whether for advice, kind words, or just a listening ear, I feel so lucky to have developed my own little community here on Reddit. First things first, I meant to update sooner, but as Jake mentioned in his comment, I was locked out of my account. Well, someone changed the password and email to my Reddit account. You'll never guess who it was. Let's rewind about a month ago. I was cooking dinner for Jake and the kids while Jake was outside playing with them in the backyard. Suddenly my front door opened, and I figured it was one of my in-laws. They don't usually drop by unexpectedly, but both Angie and my mother-in-law have a key to my house since they help out so much. Imagine my surprise when I'm chopping up carrots and see Jess waltz into my kitchen. I simply pointed the knife at the door and told her to get the hell out of my house before I called the cops and pressed charges for breaking and entering and trespassing. I wasn't even concerned with how she got into my house at that moment. I keep my doors locked 24/7, call it paranoia if you will. I just wanted her out and figured I'd deal with the rest later. She started screaming and calling me psycho for threatening her with a knife. Jake heard the screams and rushed inside. His immediate reaction was to restrain Jess because he thought she was hurting me, even though there was a solid 10 to 15 feet between us. He dragged her out of the house and told her to leave. Jess was screaming that she would ruin my life and claimed all she came over for was to ask for forgiveness. Then she called the cops and made up this elaborate story, saying we lured her to my house to set her up, that I tried to stab her, and that Jake was punching her repeatedly. She had zero proof of course, and I have cameras covering the main areas of the house. Naturally, I pulled up the footage and showed it to the cops and they left, taking Jess with them. Ever since that night, Jake has stayed at my house every night to make sure I feel safe. Afterward, Jess hacked into every single one of my social media accounts, including Reddit. I never changed my password since everything blew up. I never thought she'd stoop even lower. She posted some truly awful and hateful things on my Facebook and Instagram. Thankfully, she didn't manage to post anything on Reddit before I got it back. She even spammed my workplace with complaints and fabricated stories about me. I'm a nurse at our local hospital, and I was suspended for a week while they investigated. Thankfully, after everything was looked into, and everything I told my boss, HR, and everyone else was proven true, I was welcomed back to work. I filed for a restraining order against Jess for both myself and my children after she tried to pick up my oldest from school without anyone's knowledge. Thankfully, I had already spoken to the school about this and gave them a strict list of people who are allowed to pick up my child. I told them to send everyone else away and call the cops if necessary, especially after Tyler got violent in front of the kids a while back. The school handled it perfectly. They escorted Jess off school grounds and kept my child safe and close until they saw me for pickup. Right now, I have an emergency restraining order approved, but I'll need to go to court within the next month for a more permanent one. I'll keep you updated on how that goes. As for how she got into my house, she must have had a key from when we were growing up together, because Angie and her husband haven't spoken to her, and she hasn't had access to them or their home. I got the locks changed immediately just to be safe. There's no real update on Tyler. He still hasn't reached out to see the kids or asked about them. He's basically been a ghost. About a week ago, while we were having dinner with Jake, my oldest quietly said she wished Jake was her dad and mentioned how her real dad never played with them and was really mean when I wasn't home or looking. That just confirmed my fears. They were too accepting of him being gone, and now I understand why. Through the grapevine, via my mother-in-law and father-in-law, I found out that Tyler is already remarried and has another baby on the way. My mother-in-law told me they received both a baby shower and wedding invite in the mail. Honestly, I just feel bad for his new wife. The kids are truly wonderful. They're still in therapy, but the therapist has only positive things to say after their sessions now. She did mention that my oldest brought up the idea of calling Jake dad, but honestly, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet. Jake has made it clear that once, yes, he said once, not if we're married, he fully intends to adopt the kids, but that's a conversation for another day, haha. I don't want to deter my oldest from building a strong bond with Jake, but it still feels too soon, you know. As for my middle child, it seems like they've completely forgotten about Tyler and are their usual ray of sunshine. I've honestly never met a happier kid, and the baby is babbling, smiling and laughing now, can you believe it? I'm truly blessed with such amazing kids. Jake is well, Jake, you know how that goes, haha. No, seriously, I've never felt such happiness. He was genuinely concerned by how many people were commenting, asking if we were still together, and told me, you better update right now and tell them we're still together. I wish you guys could hear just how funny he really is. I officially allowed him to call me his girlfriend, though he claims I've practically been his girlfriend this whole time, haha. He's been sleeping over almost every night. He says it's because he's worried Jess might show back up, but secretly, I think it's because he hates being away from the kids. Whenever he's at work or not at my house, he texts whoever is with the kids asking for picture updates and talks about how much he misses them. It's actually really sweet. He continues to let me set the pace, but he also gives me a gentle nudge when I need it. He's even attended a few of my therapy sessions to better understand what I need from him in this relationship. Jake is honestly everything I could have asked for. I'm so lucky to love him. As always, thank you for being here. Until next time, friends. 9th update 1 month later. Hey guys, I'm making this quick since this is the first break I've had from my busy life in weeks. I had my restraining order court date. While I didn't get a permanent restraining order, I did secure a 7-year one. Apparently in my state, it's really hard to get a permanent restraining order, unless you have tangible proof that you're going to get unalived. Everything I had on Jess wasn't enough for permanent, but I'm still content with the outcome. If she continues to be a bother during or after the 7-year order, I can take her back to court or have her arrested. With that said, I'm letting the talks and questions about Jess end here. I love sharing my life with you all, but I don't want her to try and use anything I say, whether it's under a false name or protected identity, to claim I've been breaking the restraining order. On a happier note, Jake, the kids, and I decided that since he's spending so much time at my house and his place is basically just a storage unit, he's going to move in. And before anyone says it's too fast, just know that I've literally known Jake my entire life. I'm comfortable and confident in this decision. Tyler is still a ghost, 0 contact attempts. The kids are beautiful, loved, and thriving. Sorry this is short and sweet, but life has been kicking my rear between sleep regression, lawyer meetings, court work, and my older two's extracurricular activities. Love you guys and thank you for sticking with me over a year later. I hope everyone is doing well. 10th update 3 months later. Hey guys, I have some news and I'm not sure how else to say it, so I'll just come out with it. Jess was found deceased in her apartment from a substance overdose at the end of July. To say it was a shock would be an understatement. Jess was the kind of girl who never touched substances in her life. Even back in the day when I would occasionally smoke grass, she'd pick a fight with me about it. A part of me is devastated. Jess was my best friend, and we went through so much together, we had so much history. She wrote me a letter, and while I'm not going to go into every single detail, I will share one significant part. In the letter she explained that she saw I was trapped in an unhappy, loveless marriage and wanted to help me get out of it. She didn't know how, so one night, when she started using substances, she decided the only way to get rid of Tyler was by sleeping with him. From there things spiraled, and she fell in love with him. She became jealous because he would fill her head with pretty lies and then go home to me. So while I don't forgive her for what she did to me, I get it, I understand. Jake has been blaming himself in a way. So as he was angry at Jess, but he never wanted her to unalive herself, none of us did. He's been struggling but, in true Jake fashion, he's been pushing his grief aside to be there for everyone else. He stayed with his parents for the first month after everything happened to take care of them, and would check on me at least twice a day. He still hasn't really opened up about it, so I try to support him in every way possible without needing to use words. Angie isn't doing well either. She lost a child, and even though she cut Jess off, that was still her daughter, and she still loves her. I've been stopping by their house daily to check on her and bring meals just to make sure everyone is eating. Jake's dad has been handling things much better than I expected. Jess was always closer to him, but he told me, maybe I'm heartless, but once I saw the woman she was becoming, I stopped thinking of her as my daughter. I already grieved the loss of my daughter a long time ago, so there's that. Just to clarify, nobody is blaming me for what happened. They made the choice to cut Jess out of their lives of their own free will. I made it clear to them when everything first came out that I wouldn't blame them if they wanted to keep their relationship with their daughter or sister. Angie even made a point to tell me it wasn't my fault, and we hugged and cried together. We're not sure if Jess's overdose was intentional, or if the letters were just a backup in case something happened, but they weren't out in the open by her body, they were tucked away in a drawer. To wrap up this update, I want to say that even though I had a lot of hate in my heart for Jess, there was also a lot of love. She hurt me and betrayed me, but if she hadn't, I would still be stuck in a loveless marriage, feeling indifferent towards Tyler, and I wouldn't be as happy as I am now. She did it in a messed up way, but in a sense she freed me from my shackles. I will always love her, and her loss is something that will stay with me for the rest of my life. Edit: Tyler is still MIA from the kids' lives. He hasn't reached out, and I'm not chasing after him to be involved. The kids deserve more from their dad. The kids are doing just wonderful. They've really taken to Jake, and even the baby now calls him Dada. After Jake and I had a long talk about it, I've decided that if the kids want to call him Dad, I won't intervene. My oldest made the transition from calling him Uncle Jake to Dad, while my middle child still calls him Uncle Jake, and that's completely fine with me. I'm letting them pursue that relationship however they feel comfortable. Jake has even started coaching their indoor soccer league, and they absolutely love having him there. The house has this new sense of peace, and seeing how happy the kids are makes my heart so full. I also had a conversation with them about Aunt Jess being in heaven with Papa, and they took it well, probably because they hadn't seen her much in the last year. Tyler's parents have continued to be just as involved and are actually really close to Jake's parents now. They've all been so wonderful, it honestly feels like I'm dreaming sometimes. As for Angie and her husband, they've stepped back a little from the kids' lives to deal with their grief, which I completely understand. They still see the kids at least once a week, and Angie mentioned that spending time with them helps her heal. About 2 weeks after Jess passed away, Jake asked me to marry him. I told him I wasn't saying no, but I wanted him to sit with the idea for a bit longer and make sure he wasn't making a hasty decision in the midst of grief. A month later, once things had started to settle and we were slowly getting back into our routines, he asked me again. He had this whole speech about how he's wanted this for as long as he could remember it, and even mentioned how, when we were kids, he told me he would marry me when we grew up. And yes, it's true, he really did say that when I was about 5 LOL. So, I said yes, we're having a long engagement, I don't want to jump right back into marriage, so we're taking our time and haven't even started wedding planning yet. Maybe in 2025 we'll begin making plans. Honestly, we've been debating eloping, just something small with his parents and the kids. Who knows though, we have time to figure it out. Life has been a whirlwind of ups and downs, but I feel so lucky to have so many wonderful people who love me and my kids. As always, thank you for being here with me throughout this journey.